So, here we are, bound and determined to look at what it is to be determined. And of course, when we go to the dictionary, we get all kinds of definitions, some of them being, well, it's to cause something to happen. It's to firmly believe. It's to dictate. It's to decree. It's to ordain. That's what it is to be determined. And so we're looking at what the composition of a determinator is. Now, I like the word. It's not in the dictionary. I made it up. A determinator. I'd rather be a determinator than the other minator. And so we're looking at what that is, and if we could find ourselves in the company of the clan of determinators or not, and deciding where we fit in it all, making maybe a different decision to be bound and determined as these wonderful people are. A determinator is somebody who absolutely knows within them, their very bones, that they can succeed and achieve. They are people that have a powerful passion to indeed succeed and win. They are people who are willing to invest in their determination and do what it takes to get the job done without ever faltering. They get up, they keep going. They get up, they keep going. They get up, they keep going every day until their desire is accomplished. It's a powerful energy to entertain and to be moved by. And it always brings home the result that we desire. Now, of course, when we talk about being determined, we're talking on the good side of life, on the affirmative side of life, because you can be bound and determined on the other side as well. That we don't do here. We're thinking always in terms of the good for ourselves and the good for all else besides in what we are determined to accomplish, because we know that it's never just about me doing something for me. It's about me doing something that's good, that not only affects me, but affects everybody else too. And so, we are knowing this week that we're called to look to ourselves and see how determined we are in regard to our good, the good that we want to realize. Because that's a power that fires that happening and moves us into action, because a determinator is always an action-packed person. They always move on what they're determined to accomplish. And you will find that these people are people of I can, I will, I did. That's what a determinator is. A person that can say, I can, I will, and then I did, because they've accomplished the task. And you and I can be those people too. Our country has produced amazing determinators in the past and in the present. We had, amazing, successful people in a time of the Depression. We had, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, we had the Fords, we had the Edisons, we had the Wright brothers, determined in their own way to accomplish their own goals and their own desires, and they blazed the trail for people like Warren Buffett and people like Steve Jobs in this present time. And that energy is there available to you, and it's available to me. It's the energy of this country. This country has an amazing capacity to achieve all kinds of things, and to succeed at all kinds of things. And especially when we channel that aright, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. The mystics, they were amazing determinators. They were bound and determined. They were by God going to realize God, and they did. They were bound and determined to go as far as they could go, spiritually speaking, and to unleash that hidden splendor within themselves so that they could see it in everything else and everyone else too. That's what the mystics believed living in the presence of God was all about. Everywhere God and God alone, and only God. And as I was saying this morning, if they were up in Skid Row and they saw a bundle of rags that appeared to be a bundle of rags lying in the gutter there, they were not seeing that. They were seeing that individualized expression of the Almighty Spirit of infinite intelligence in its pristine state, glowing and brilliant, and they were namasteing it. That's what they saw. They didn't see anything else because they were realized. They knew what it was to live in the truth. And the truth is that at our essential core of being, all is well, and we are amazing, and we are magnificent, and we are the glorious emanating expressions of life back unto itself. And the realized one sees all creation the way the Creator sees all creation, as a whole and a complete and a finished thing that is good and very good. And that makes all the difference. I love the story about the man that I was telling this morning, about the small businessman who loved his work and loved his staff and loved his customers, and he had a thriving clothing business going for him, and every day was a joy to him. And then one day along came the large conglomerate. Along came the chain store people and bought the whole block that he was on, except for his store. Oh, they wanted to buy him out too, but he didn't want to sell. He was quite happy in his work. He loved his work. He loved his people. He loved his customers. He wasn't going to sell. Why should he? That was his way of being creatively in expression in this lifetime. And so, as much as the conglomerate tried to buy him out, he said no and held firm. They said, okay, we'll build both sides of you and we'll crush you out. And then when we come to you, we will not be offering what we're offering to you now. And so the small businessman smiled and said, you know, you do what you have to do. And he continued in his work. And of course the day eventually came when he had a huge building one side of him and a huge building the other side of him, and notices were going up everywhere saying along the block, you know, grand opening coming soon. And so he just smiled to himself and went into his store and got on with business as he always did. And then the morning of the grand opening, he came to work early with a small crew, and he did what he had to do. And then he went into his shop and he smiled and he got himself a cup of coffee, turned to his staff and he said, get ready for your busiest day ever. This is going to be our best day in business ever. Went out again, stood in front of his the opening and entrance to his store, looked up with his hands on his hips and smiled, because the sign that he had put up, a very large one that morning, read, main entrance. Did great business that day. Not only did he do great business, he made new customers, and people around admired his tenacity for standing up to the big bullies, and they gave him plenty of business to keep himself and his staff going for as long as he so desired to do it. You gotta love the man. You gotta love his tenacity. You gotta love his determination. He was not moved by these big bully people coming in saying we're going to crush you and all of that. Didn't happen, because he was bound and determined to continue doing what he was doing, because he knew it was a good thing. A good thing. And so the quality of determination is something that is well worthwhile you and I growing and nurturing and nourishing when it is directed towards some good to be realized. And so, you know, how do we indeed go about that? How do we allow ourselves, like these amazing determinators, to set the creative genius within us free, to soar, and to accomplish great good? How do we do that? Well, it's a simple process, really. It's like any other process. How do we do anything? First and foremostly, you and I have to believe, deeply believe, that we can realize our goals and desires. We can realize our dreams. Why? Because those are goals and dreams and desires of something that is much greater than you are. That is the desire of life within you wanting to express itself more fully by means of you. You are its outlet. And when you understand that these good impulses that you have within you are coming from something much greater than you are, they're not coming from the ego self. They're coming from a different state of being, your true state of being. And if you can understand with that going for you, I can absolutely realize this good thing. I can realize my desire. I can accomplish my dreams. And once you get that straight, the next thing you have to do is to get clear about what that good thing is that wants to emerge by means of you. You have to sit with it and allow it to get clarified in your mind. You have to be able to see it, envision it, and then say, yes, this is a good thing, and agree to it and commit to it. And then the next thing you have to do is to absolutely show up in support of that good being realized. You have to back it up. You have to support it with what those determinators had, a powerful passion to realize and win. And so you have to support it and back it up with every thought that you think, every feeling that you entertain, and everything that you do must support this good that is now on the way to being realized by means of you. And then the next thing you do is understand that the obstacles that may arise are only temporary pauses. That's all. And that because of the intuitive intelligence within you, you can find a way over, under, around, and about any obstacle that crops up, because you're on your way to that realization of that good. And then the next thing you have to understand is you need to have a good dollop of faith. Add faith to the fire, the power of determination. What is faith? Well, today, the definition we're choosing is faith is absolute certainty with regard to assuming the feeling of the desire already fulfilled. That's what faith is. Keeping on, assuming and entertaining the feeling of that desire, that goal already in place, already fulfilled, and never stepping down from it, never backing down from it for one moment, regardless of circumstances and situations and appearances. That's what the faith is in this instant and is required of us, that I assume the feeling and the thinking of the wish already fulfilled, and I go about the business knowing it's a done deal. I'm just fleshing it out now. So a good dollop of faith there is very, very important. And the next thing is to understand that you don't have to be affected at all by criticisms, by disparaging remarks or whatever from the outside world. You don't have to be discouraged by the negativity that comes at you because persons, places, and things think that you can't realize that it's pie in the sky. You don't have to be in any way influenced by that. That's outside of you. It's nothing got to do with you. And it's people in their own experience anyway. What do they know? They hardly know about their own lives, far less yours. And so you don't have to be disturbed by that. And then the next thing is to know what all of the great determinators knew. That my life is exactly as I believe my life to be. My life is exactly what I believe my life to be. Nothing more and nothing less. It is done unto me as I believe. And that if I think I can do something, I absolutely can, even if I have to move mountains to do it. And if I believe I cannot do something, even the easiest, smallest thing, I cannot do it. It's what I believe. They knew that so well, that it is done unto me as I believe. My life is exactly what I think it, feel it, and believe it to be, and nothing more and nothing less. And then the next thing is to understand fully what they understood. There's something more than me in all of this. There's something more than me that has a power and a presence and an energy in all of this. It's a universal thing. It's a universal, infinite, cosmic, intelligent thing going on. It's more than I am. And if I align my released inner genius with its universal power and intelligence, I am unstoppable, and nothing and no one can get in the way of me realizing my good. Now, these are the things I must be willing to engage in order to accomplish and realize my good, if I am bound and if I am determined to do that. There's not one of us sitting in this room that has not succeeded in doing something in the beginning we thought we couldn't do. Not one of us. We could all give testimony to that. Gee, I never thought I had it in me. Gee, I never thought I could do that. Oh my goodness, look, I've done it. I did it. It's mine. I can, I will, I did. That's the mantra for determinators. I was 5 minutes in the business community, 5 minutes out in the marketplace in the world, 5 minutes of an experience in corporate America. And I remember, I thought, I've been teaching for so long now, and wouldn't it be nice to have a job that wasn't, that wasn't the mainstream battlefront line of life and living? And wouldn't it be nice to have a nice, easy, relaxed job for a change? And then it caught my eye in the paper, wanted for our office, Earth Mother, who could take care of us Earth children. And I thought, gosh, that's a fun place to be. That must be a fun place to be. Look at that ad. So on a whim, I responded. And I was interviewed for the job. 2 younger folk interviewed me at the beginning. They loved the whole idea. And they said, oh, yeah, we'd love to have you on board, but you have to be interviewed by the owner. So the owner interviewed me. He was a young, very creative man in an advertising business. And he said, oh, yeah, that'd be great. And then he said, but you have to have an interview with the CEO. I said, this is ridiculous. This is a reception. It's a receptionist's job, for God's sakes, in my own mind. So anyway, I was interviewed by the CEO. Well, he grilled me. He put me through the mill. And then he said, well, why are you showing up for this job? You're too far overqualified for it. What are you going to do with your mind after 2 days? I mean, it's a receptionist job. You do realize that. And then let me tell you what I told him. I said, do you realize, sir, that the most important job in your business is the receptionist's job? That receptionist is the first person that anybody reaches in your office. And depending upon what that receptionist is able to relate to that person, depends on whether you get a new client or not. A receptionist has ultimate power in the company. They're the people of power. Do you realize that, sir? Anyway, I had a second interview with them. That was 4 interviews for a receptionist job. And eventually I got the job. Whew. So I showed up, and it was a very simple, easy job. 3 weeks later, I was interviewing people for my job, because they had invited me to be the account executive. Now, I didn't know what an account executive was. No idea. And I thought, I can't do this. I've no experience. Telling myself, I can't do that. No, and besides, I just wanted a simple, easy job, for God's sakes, just for a couple of months. And then in the end, I said, well, okay. Something in me said, say yes. So I said yes to being the account executive in this firm. Well, after 3 months, I was called into the CEO's office, and I thought, oh, you know, when you're called to the principal's office, what do I do now? Because I knew I didn't. I was running by the seat of my pants here. And so he said, well, he says, this is a first. I said, really? He said, yeah, how'd you do it? I said, what did I do? He said, you brought in all the accounts. I said, wasn't I supposed to do that? He said, yeah, but nobody ever does it. I said, I'll tell you how I did it now, sir. I did it by befriending every single receptionist in every single firm I talked to. They are the people with the power to put me through to the people I needed to speak in order to get your bills paid. That's how I did it. Bound and determined I was. Bound and determined to make a success of this job, and I didn't even know I was bound and determined at the time, to the extent that I now know what bound and determined means. But I wanted to succeed at the job, and I wanted to do a good job, not knowing really what I was doing. And so I know in personal experience in my own life the difference being bound and determined can make, and so do you, because you too have had such experiences in your own situations, realizing that you could do things that you felt you weren't prepared to do, or that you didn't have enough know-how to do. But something in you said, say yes, say yes. Yes, we could be here all day, me telling you stories and you telling me stories. But the challenge for this week is for you and for me to wake up every day and immediately be bound and determined to move upon some goal or another that we have, that we want to realize, and to do what it takes in order to realize it. How many times have you said to yourself, oh gosh, I'd love to do that. Oh, I'd love to have that. Oh, I'd love to be that. Oh, I'd love to go up to Arrowhead. But none of it happened because we weren't determined enough to make it so. I'd love to, but I'm not determined enough to make it so. What will get you off your sweet spiritual derriere and help you to be bound and determined to make some real good goal in your life come into experience in your life? What is it that's going to get you to do that? Well, whatever it is, commit to it and say, I can, I will, and then enjoy saying, I did. Will you join me this week in this endeavor? Yes. Do you now believe that you can accomplish what you have on the back shelf? One thing, I'm only saying for all of us, one thing at a time. Let us set ourselves up for success, for heaven's sake. Don't jump at it all at one time. One thing, that's all. And say to yourself, I can and I will, because of the power and the presence of the infinite spirit within me that helps me to do this and bring it on home. And I'm looking forward with full expectation to saying, I did it. I did it. And now I can move on to the next thing. Is that not a great, good goal to have? Yes. And we are going to succeed and achieve, are we not? Yes. And when do we begin this process? Yes. And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.